Welcome to the Good for Others show. My name is John Valencia, and I'm here with Elsa Morales Roth. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. Very excited.
Elsa is a natural change maker. She's currently the executive director of the Emilio Nares Foundation, with over 16 years of experience in communications, community engagement, philanthropy, government affairs, and public relations in Mexico and the U.S. She is a mission-driven bilingual leader who is passionate about addressing community-related issues and creating positive social change. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm so honored to be here and be in this episode of Good for Others show. Thank you for having me.
All right, so to kick things off, we're going to play a little game. How's that sound?
I love it.
All right, I'm going to ask you a few lightning round questions. Are you ready?
Oof, I don't know, but okay, let's do this.
They're going to be really hard. Are you ready?
Yes.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Oh, dog or cat?
Dogs.
Okay.
I love you.
Big party or small gathering?
Small gallery.
Okay. Sneakers or sandals?
Ooh, sneakers.
Okay. Amusement park or day at the beach?
Oh, day at the beach. Let's relax.
Save or spend? Spend. I love that. And name a celebrity you'd like to have happy hour with.
Oh, that's a great one. Maybe Michelle Obama. She's kind of fun.
I support that. All right. On a more serious note, what inspires you?
I think it's my family, my lived experience. Binational kid, born and raised in Tijuana. I had the honor and the opportunity to move to the United States, but it was a very tough transition, right? Trying to understand the language, even though Mr. Rogers taught me how to speak English when I was in Tijuana. Living over here was quite rough. Between trying to raise your credit, trying to get a new job, nobody knows you. So I think it's that lived experience of feeling alone, of like, who do I ask? Where are the resources? I think that's why I'm very passionate about nonprofit, because in my personal experience, I would want someone to say, hey, we're here to help you out. You're not alone. This is how you build your credit. This is how you get a better paying job. This is how you get access to healthcare. So there's a lot of families and a lot of individuals going through that. And I think that's what drives me, that people, the power of community, not being by yourself and making sure that there's somebody out there that can help you out.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So tell us a little bit more about your background. I mean, you just did, but a little bit more. How did you get into the nonprofit space? That type of stuff.
It's super funny. So I was born and raised in Tijuana. I went to college down there in UABC, which is the equivalent of SCSU in communications. I worked in government sector, private sector, but the nonprofit kept pulling me back. So I actually worked at a nonprofit down in Tijuana, Pasitos, who serves children on the autism spectrum. So I was their marketing and communications manager. So I was there for a while, and I said, nonprofit is the space where I need to be. That's where I'm passionate. I want to make sure that, through my skill set of communications, community engagement, I can bring in the funding so we can better serve the community down there. So that's how I started into nonprofit. Then I moved into the United States and I went back to corporate sector, which is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But I always there was this thing, I'm like, I want to serve, that pulls you the heart. And with that experience of moving over here, I said, I need to go back and figure out a way to connect people again with resources and information on how to live in the United States, basically, right? Something very basic. So I think that's what drove me. So I had that experience, and then I'm a binational kid, so I kind of understand the nuances of that. Honduran mother, Mexican dad, so I'm all multicultural in every single aspect. So for me, I worked in several nonprofits in very different sectors: economic development, housing. I worked in advocacy, and right now at Emilio Nares, I think it was truly my passion that everybody has equitable access to healthcare. This is a basic right. Everybody should have access, regardless of your status, background, age, whatever you think could be a potential barrier. So for me, that's very important, that not only that we provide that access, but also we advocate. There's a lot of barriers. I just heard this piece of data that 70% of Latino children are eligible for or have Medi-Cal. So it's a systemic change that we need to figure out there. It's about economic mobility. So it's not only providing the service now, but in the long term, how can we also support changes in public policy to make sure that we have economic mobility, not only for Latinos, but for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. And tell us a little bit about the organization you're working at now and what you guys are doing.
So at Emilio Nares Foundation, we've been around for 21 years. It was founded by Richard and Diane Nares to honor their son, Emilio. Emilio was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 3. And went through treatment. I went through several hospitals to raise children. And while they were going through that journey, they realized there was a lot of barriers. Even though they had a big support system, they noticed that transportation was a big issue. So for children that were undergoing chemotherapy. So what happened is they started being a resource center, like both of them, but Richard and Diana, they're, I guess, mobile resource center because parents kept asking them, hey, I want to do a bone marrow drive. Do you know anything about that? I don't have transportation. I don't know what questions to ask my doctor. So they became really a good point of reference for a lot of families going through that. So unfortunately, Emilio passed away just before he turned 6. They turned that into that, it's a very tough situation. It's a lot of pain, but they turned it into something positive and they wanted to honor him. So they started the Emilio Nares Foundation to honor his legacy. They started with free transportation. So Richard would drive his minivan all the way from Fallbrook to raise children and bring children back and forth. And people ask why. Well, I think what COVID taught us was that if you're immunocompromised, you cannot take public transportation to access healthcare. So that happened 21 years ago. If you're going through chemotherapy, imagine you're in Fallbrook or Oceanside. You're in the bus for 2-3 hours. How many viruses, how many bacteria? It's just horrendous. So he started with that, with free transportation. We've driven 1.5 million miles. So that's like 6 or 7.
1.5 million miles.
Yes. It's like 6 or 7 times around the world. It's wild. And we've served more than 11,000 children. So 11,000 lives have been saved. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's really great work. I'm honored to work with Richard and Diane and now lead this organization. I'm coming up on a year. So it's just phenomenal. And today we have a family resource center. It's inside of Ray's Hospital in Children's Hospital, Orange County. So we're served technically all of Southern California with resources, shelter, food, aid, scholarships, whatever a family needs during and after treatment.
Wow. What kind of projects do you have coming up?
Oof, so many. So part of what we're doing right now is expanding our services. So right now we provide free transportation to families in Imperial Valley, in Orange County, in Riverside, and South LA. We're actually trying to see if we can have family resource centers in each one of these counties. So that's in the next year or so. Hopefully we're going to grow our mighty team of 11. So that's more like the big picture where we're headed. We want to make sure that, again, that families don't feel alone during this journey, which is very important. But also, we're going to have our end of year campaign. So, right now we're going to start a fundraising campaign for end of year, but also we have a lot of volunteer opportunities. So if anybody's interested in joining us, we're going to have toy drives and food drives for families that are inside the hospital that cannot have a Thanksgiving dinner. We're going to put together bags so they can have Thanksgiving dinner at the hospital.
Wow.
Yes. And toy drives for all the children. We always are looking for volunteers for one of our programs, the Emilio snack bags, which are, we put together bags of snacks. So when children wake up after chemotherapy, they have food immediately. So we have a lot of opportunities coming up. So stay tuned for those and check our website, enfhope.org.
Yeah, I was able to go to your fundraising gala a few weeks ago, which was amazing. Congratulations, by the way. And I think the thing that stuck out the most to me was when you were talking to the group and telling them about how a child will come out of chemotherapy and there's no food for them. And you guys provide those snacks. What do you call them?
It's Emilio snack bags. Yeah.
Snack bags. And how many bags have you?
Oof. So we've given about, I think, 14,000 bags, something or so. Yeah.
And so I don't understand. So like they go through chemotherapy, but they don't have access, like they don't provide them a snack?
No. So, and these are the simple things that sometimes we don't know about. And again, thank you so much for supporting and going to our fundraiser, Harvest for Hope. It was really great to have 325 friends and community leaders at that event. So part of the one of our programs is Emilio snack bags, and we're addressing food insecurity. And these are the things that people don't notice. But yes, when a child goes through chemotherapy, they have to fast for about 24 hours. And what tends to happen is when they wake up from chemotherapy, a lot of the families that we serve come from the underserved communities, the lower incomes, where they didn't have an opportunity because, again, they were underinvested. So they're already having financial hardship. And so what we decided is to address food insecurity and make sure that every single child that goes through chemotherapy at Children's Hospital, Orange County, and Radius Children's Hospital has food at least immediately when they wake up after chemotherapy. They have hospital-approved, nutrient-dense food, so that we ensure that their system is back up and running after chemotherapy, because it's very harsh on a body of a 3-year-old. It's wild. So that's one of the programs that we have, and we deliver 15,000 bags every single year.
Wow. So that's a great opportunity for people to help, like, volunteer. Could they build these snack bags that they do?
Yes, that's actually a really great corporate volunteerism activity.
Oh.
It's so we get together with a lot of companies, specifically in life sciences and pharmaceuticals. We get a group of volunteers, 50, sometimes it's 100 volunteers, and we give them a list of all the items that need to get put together, I guess, for this activity. And we do it, again, it's a group activity, it's a team building, because we go out there and we explain, like, this is what these bags mean to a family. Because sometimes it's not only for the child is going through cancer and through treatment, but sometimes the siblings. Sometimes we give the bags to the siblings. So we explain where these bags are going, and they can see the direct impact. And we have these beautiful activities where they can put together the bags, and it's very simple. We do it in half an hour, so not a lot of pre-planning. And we actually provide a space ourselves, Emilio Nares, or we can go to the corporate office and have that.
So, Elsa, let's talk a little bit about collaboration in the nonprofit space. I think that one of the things that's always attracted me to you is that you really understand that the work we do is about relationships and having really strong, meaningful ones. So often you can just go out and about and go to these networking events we go to. Well, you go to a lot. If you ever look at her LinkedIn, she's everywhere. But to really build strong, lasting relationships with people matters, right? Tell us a little bit about how you take kind of building social capital in a meaningful way, and apply that to some of the work that you've been doing in the nonprofit space.
And it's a question that I get a lot, like, why are these events? Aren't you exhausted? Oh my God. I am sometimes, right? But I think the point of me showing up in different spaces, and spaces that maybe before we didn't think about, that not Elsa, but Emilio Nares should be there. I think it's very important for us to show up, understand what's happening in different landscapes. Because what I want to make sure is having these conversations. It's not only about showing up for the event, but how can we collaborate? You might be an expert in economic development or in workforce development. There's a tie-in there with healthcare. There's a tie-in there with social determinants of health. So I want to make sure that, for example, that our families, like tying it back to our mission, it's about, okay, what happens after treatment, right, with the family? A lot of people don't realize, but when you're going through treatment, sometimes parents lose jobs because they have to take a day to a week off because they have to take care of their children. Sometimes they lose their jobs. We have families that are very high income earners, and they end up losing their homes because there's a financial hardship and then an emotional conversation there with the family, right? There's divorces, there's separations, guardianships. So when I go out there at the event, I immediately think about all the social determinants of health that our families we have to address for our families. So if a mom lost her job, how can I connect with somebody that offers maybe free workforce development training for somebody to get into the finance sector? So another person is the sibling of a child that went through cancer. I go to education spaces and say, hey, is there anybody that can counsel this sibling for them to see themselves and say, no, you can go into higher education or post-secondary education, or you can open up your own business. That's how we tie it all in. So when I show up in these different networking spaces, it's not only about me, I want to be in this space. It's truly about how can we collaborate? You're the expert in this space. I'm the expert in this space. How can we start connecting both of these two? Because at the end of the day, you serve the same communities.
That's right.
It might be South County, North County, East, but at the end of the day, we're all San Diegans, right? And if I can connect or support your cause around childcare, one example, a childcare crisis, if I can show up and support the systemic change that needs to happen there, that's going to impact healthcare. So for me, we're all one community. We're all serving the same communities. How can we partner up again and not, it's a lot of not having ego too, which sometimes happens in the nonprofit sector. Yeah. It's more about making sure, to your point, and I love our conversations, right, of, hey, there's 14,000 nonprofits here in San Diego. A couple of them might overlap. How can you start, again, collaborating? Maybe we, instead of competing for funding or competing in regards to who we serve, what is your competitive advantage if you see it as a business model, right? Like what do you bring in that's different from Emilio Nares, and how can we work together?
So that's a really great point, because I think there being so many nonprofits in San Diego alone, let alone the United States, mission creep is a really big issue within our sector, right? So you start an organization, you build your bylaws, create your mission, and you're like, we're going to do this work. And then all of a sudden, 5-10 years, maybe not even that long down the road, next thing you know, you're not necessarily doing exactly what you said you would do as your mission. And that mission creep sets in, right? And I've seen this a lot with a lot of the nonprofits we've worked with, where you really have to figure out how to realign yourself, because so often money and resources are the determining factors of why an organization will deviate from their mission. Because you get a big grant, the funder wants to say, oh, you're doing this, but, and we want you to do this. And next thing you know, you have a new program that's really not necessarily aligned with that work. How have you and your past or your current organization really focused on making sure that mission creep doesn't happen? Because I've seen so many organizations really struggle with that.
I agree. And that's such a great point. So there's a couple of things in this space. So one is making sure you always do, as an organization, you're always mindful of the needs in the community, but what currently they're asking you for, right? For us, when I came along, I did a community needs assessment to see, okay, we started with transportation, but what else do we need out there, right? What are the other needs? So I talked to a couple of community leaders, a couple of really great friends in this space and experts in this space, but also I talked to our partners and our board and a lot of the families that we serve. What do you want from this? Okay, you know us for transportation, but what else in what other areas can we support you? And so it's both being, as an organization, it's our responsibility to do a community needs assessment to understand what are not only the current needs, but wants from the community, and see, hey, we started with this mission, we were very passionate about it, but do we need either not complete change in mission, but maybe modify it a little bit to make sure that, again, 20 years, even a year ago, even before COVID, we were a completely different world. Yeah. So you have to realign. So that's one piece is that I think we need to be, as nonprofits, a little more forward with, or taking more of that initiative. But on the other hand, it's also educating our donors. Sometimes there's power dynamics, right? Unfortunately, and that's something that's a true statement. I'm not talking about anything that no one knows. But there's power dynamics. And sometimes you're a small organization and you want to make sure you also pay your salaries. You have equitable salaries. You provide benefits for your own staff. So sometimes it's hard because you have this phenomenal donor that wants to give you that multi-year grant, but it doesn't align with your mission. Yep. So that's when you have to also, it's hard, but you have to step it up as a nonprofit leader and say, well, I understand that this is your passion, but this is what we're for. how can we align the two, right? Is it, or maybe it's a collaboration with somebody else. But to your point, it's from our side, we need to stop chasing those dollars in this sense, because then we completely forget about our mission, right? I know several nonprofits that they started with this idea and now they're the complete opposite. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but also, are you serving the community in the right way, the best way?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, when it comes to hiring, I think that's a big piece to go. We struggle in our nonprofit space. I heard a stat, it's like 10,000 open positions of nonprofit jobs just in San Diego, because people are moving. Retention rates are low because a lot of nonprofits aren't providing health care. They don't have retirement plans, or there's a better title or a fancier title somewhere else, right? And so it's really hard to do that. Plus burnout, right? Our burnout rates are super high because so often we're wearing 50 different hats, right? Because we have these small nonprofits that are trying to do the best that they can with the resources they have. What are some of the struggles you've seen, say, with hiring and retaining some staff? And are there any best practices? I heard you're offering health benefits, which is amazing. Most nonprofits aren't doing that, some of these smaller ones. So what are you seeing with the landscape of just kind of working with your staff and helping to retain them and provide them meaningful work?
So part of it, again, a lot of it, and this is a really great question because it's hard. It's tough out there. Let's just say that. And part of it is, again, you need to constantly look inward to see what are you providing as an organization. When I came along, I'm going to be very honest, there was a disparity there.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to make sure that our frontline staff feel appreciated and make sure that they are taken care of, because if you as a nonprofit, if your own staff qualifies for the services that you are providing, that's interesting to me. Let's just say that, right? Because what are you doing to make sure that you uplift them? And I'm not saying you have to have the $1 million salaries. It's not that. But you have to be able to make sure that the cost of living aligns with your work. I think as a nonprofit sector, because we wear those 50 different hats, sometimes people say, oh, that's a nonprofit salary. That's what you're supposed to get. And I actually am very big advocate. I'm like, no. We're a business. Our business is people.
Yes.
So it's people. It's making sure we transform lives. It's making sure we collaborate. So it's again, like a corporate entity, right? That's our business. Our return of investment is making sure the whole community is uplifted. So in regards to hiring, it's hard because you're competing. One, nonprofit sector is very specialized. So you have those 5-6 different people that in San Diego are the phenomenal people in as executive directors or philanthropy or programs. So we're all competing for the same people, and the salaries is a big issue, right? So part of it is a tough landscape, but part of it is education to donors, which is hard sometimes when you're in the asking aspect, again, power dynamics. But part of it is we just had this conversation a couple of weeks ago where a couple of nonprofits came together and said, we also need to educate our donors as to like, okay, we need to keep the lights on. That costs us quite a lot. We need to be mindful of cost of living in San Diego. So that means that we have to hire not only great staff, but give them what they're worth, the work that they're, like that. I don't like putting a number on a person, but their skill set is phenomenal. They're passionate. They do 5, 7, 10 different things. So it's that education piece, I think, with donors and making sure that, yes, we want all the funding to go to programs, but we also have to run the program.
Yeah.
What does that look like, right? And in San Diego, it costs a lot to run that program.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, I won't say which organization, but I know there was, their CEO salary was announced, and I think put shockwaves to the community. And if you would have taken that role, which was running a huge organization with millions and millions of dollars in a budget, and compare that to a for-profit industry, that person would be making a ton of even more exponential amounts of money compared to what that salary was. And I'm really proud that I think the advocacy work in the nonprofit space has really amplified why we need to pay people comparable salaries. I think that's a big thing that I hope that Good for Others Foundation can start really doing behind the scenes, is advocating that our workers are worth their weight in gold.
Yes.
And we should be paying them comparable salaries. I'm not saying more, but at least comparable salaries in our space, to say, you're running a big organization, you have thousands of volunteers in a lot of spaces, and we're doing transformational work. And I always say that nonprofits exist because our government systems are broken, right? We don't have enough resources to support foster youth and children's initiatives and cancer research and the things that we're doing. And so we come together in this space to be a Band-Aid, unfortunately, right? And if there was enough money in the world, our governments would be supporting every single thing these nonprofits do. And so when you think about it from that lens and from an equitable lens, right? I would love for us all to be equity-minded and really think about, no, these people are doing this work. They're worth their work. And I hope that if there's even just philanthropists or donors listening, that, when we are in this space and we're going and asking for money and we say, oh, we're going to do X amount of work with this money, well, who do you think is running it?
You need someone to run, a couple of people.
You need a few, and we need to have, we should be hiring the best.
I agree.
And I think when it comes with thinking of the talent that we hire, we are hiring these people who wear their hearts on their sleeves and do this not just for the intrinsic value, but should also be rewarded for all these extra hours they're putting in, because they're doing a lot of really hard work.
Agree.
And these are talented individuals. So one, little plug there, that I think we need to keep advocating for donors to understand the why and the how behind it. I think we're storytellers by trade, right? We have to go and sell the mission of what we're trying to do because we believe it. We're passionate about it. Mm-hmm. But then also pivoting and saying, well, it does cost money to hire really good, talented people and retain them. Otherwise, we know this, right? You hire someone, they're there for a year or two, and then there's some other organization that can offer them a better salary or a better title, and then we lose them. And as much as they want to stay, right, they live in San Diego and it's expensive to live here. And so how do we retain and attract them to stay? And we have to invest, right?
And I love what you're doing at Good for Others, because you're creating this space to have these conversations, right? Like, as a nonprofit sector, how are we going to start educating the donors, but also how do we also take out that fear of saying, you know what, it takes a couple of people to run a program like this. I can't run a program where you're serving, let's say, youth or going through cancer or education or economic development with one person. Case management, like trauma-informed care. Even I'll give you an example. Our drivers. Our drivers, it's not only that they're driving, they are actually case managers, and this because they're having conversations with the families. They tell us what's going on with the family and say, hey, this family's going through something very tough, like depression, or they lost their jobs, they can't pay rent, and we immediately connect them to resources. But that's them wearing a couple of different hats, to your point. So we need to pay accordingly, right? And it's not only the salaries and the benefits, it's also taking care of our staff, self-care and burnout. You touched on this a little bit, right? Sometimes when you're having these really tough conversations, I saw this term. It's I think empathy. I forgot. It was something related. I forgot the term right now. But when you're talking to families during their journey, regardless of where they are, as staff, as nonprofit staff, you are so empathetic with their situation that you take that home.
Yes.
So how do we take care of our nonprofit staff when they have to go home and think about, how am I going to solve this situation for this family when they have 50 families to serve? Right?
Secondhand trauma.
Secondhand trauma.
Right? And you relive that because you take that home. I've worked with so many different organizations where staff, you'd walk into a room or an office space and you would just feel the heaviness because they've read a case file, they heard about what was happening to a child or a family, and that's really heavy. And in a lot of organizations, I don't think many people know this, but the confidentiality is so important and critical that you can't even go home and tell your spouse or your family or your friends, your best friend. You're like, oh, I went home and I was just this shell of a person for a moment, because you realize, oh wait, I have to like decompress, but how do you do that?
How do you even do that?
And so I think that's where, we need to, as an organization or as an industry, figure out how to support each other in safe ways where we can have some confidentiality without having to share patient information or anything personal, but having someone else who's a case manager, right, as a peer to just like decompress and be like, oh my gosh, I just heard this and I have to get that off my chest. Otherwise, I'm going to go to bed that night weighing with that weight over my shoulders. And I don't think a lot of people understand what we're asking our staff to do on a daily basis.
And to your point, that goes back to collaboration. And again, being in these spaces where you create the space to have the discussions, as Good for Others Foundation has been doing. But also it's when I network, when we are at events, that's what I'm also thinking. And I'm not only thinking about the families that we serve, but I'm thinking about my colleagues. Okay, if we connect with somebody that can provide counseling services, maybe for our drivers or for our staff that's a family resource center, I also want to do that type of collaboration. Now we just got designated as a Live Well partner. So I'm looking at that and who is out there that can support our team so we can continue supporting the families.
I love that. And yes, I think it's that collaboration piece. And I'm really excited the Good Brothers Foundation is starting to build the spaces for us to have. I want CEOs to start meeting on a regular basis, right? Case managers, fundraisers, so that we can actually start breaking down these silos, especially in the nonprofit sector, where we can build collaboration, go after big grants together. But one of the things that I think is really important that I'm hearing from other CEOs in the space is even just offering like unlimited PTO.
Heard that
right? And it's funny, we started doing that with Good Brothers Foundation, and I'm still having to push staff to take time off, right? It's so easy. It's like, oh my gosh, what a great way to attract and retain some employees, but they still have to hold them accountable and take it off. So we've even embraced birthdays, like, no, it's your birthday. Like, just can you take the day off?
One day.
We'll go and celebrate as a team and do something fun. We had one of our staff not too long ago had a birthday, and she wanted to do lunch with the staff. So we went to lunch, and then we went and did an escape room. And it was so much fun. I have to tell you, we broke the record for one of these rooms. And so Good Brothers Foundation is literally on the wall at one of the escape rooms here in San Diego. And I was like, cool marketing. And we really did a really cool, fun, thing for us as a team to really get out there, but also just take a break and celebrate each other and have fun with each other. And so I'm really trying to, in these spaces, help push, right, our colleagues and our friends to take time. Self-care is so important. Thank you for saying that. And really figure out how to, when you go home, to decompress and be there with your family and loved ones and friends after work, on weekends, because we just spend so many hours, right, thinking and doing, because we love what we do.
We're very passionate.
Right? So what do you do for self-care?
Oh, you're asking the worst person.
Holding you accountable.
Holding it. Thank you. I appreciate you, because so in my journey, it's been tough, because I'm very passionate about my work. You know this. You're very passionate too. And sometimes you're at events or you're networking, you're trying to make sure, you have volunteer activities on the weekends and everything. And sometimes, to your point, I even had to take a step back last week and say, whoa, I've been up and people kept telling me, like, you've been here, like, how do you do it? I'm like, that's not a good thing that people are telling you that, right? So for me, also, I it cracks me up, because as a Latina specifically, I feel like sometimes we have this Atlas like complex where we carry everyone and everything. We actually have this inside joke with a very good friend, Colombia, Adri, or the chigüiros, or the chigüiros are the capybaras that carry like the whole community behind them. Like, okay, but you can also put them to the side. You love your community, but you have to take care of yourself. And I saw this post the other day, like healers also need healing. So endures also need a break. So
So true.
I appreciate when my colleagues and my friends remind me, hey, I know you're very passionate, but you also have to take a second and breathe. This weekend, I think I had the opportunity to celebrate my brother. But even then, I had to stop myself and say, okay, relax. It's okay. You can't change the world. You need to, you cannot run on empty.
That's right.
So go to the beach, celebrate family, whatever relaxes you. You need to meditate. You need to take 30 minutes, even if it's in your car in the way to commuting. I think that's how I'm starting to hold myself accountable. At least 30 minutes by myself and not thinking about work. It's like who am I as an individual, as a human being, as a woman, and all that. And I'm trying to get into sports. I'm not a sports person, but I'm trying to do some type of
Pickleball.
exercise.
I love pickleball.
See, I need to
Play
to
with
get on
me.
that train.
Yes. I
Okay,
play
I'm gonna
3
go.
times a week. I am addicted. It is very fun.
See, I need to do something like fun like that.
Yes.
That's what we're going to do.
And
Okay,
it's
done.
become
Accountable.
something where it's fun. And like I go Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So I'm going to take you on a Saturday.
Maybe to do a nonprofit.
Yes.
So we can
we'll have a
bring it.
tournament.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
I love it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for just being so honest and real. I really appreciate that. Before we end here, I'd love to just talk a little bit more about what are some of the hiring needs your organization might have here in the next year or so. I know you said you want to grow. Obviously, we have the Good Brothers Foundation. We're really excited. It's launching this free training program for individuals who qualify to get them excited about the nonprofit space. So we have this, kind of for those who are emerging into this field who want to learn about it, to get them into a job. And then we have the one where it's allowing those who currently work in the nonprofit space to move up in their organization. And so, we're, again, listening on this journey with these nonprofit folks to really make sure that our training program is meeting the needs. So that being said, what is it that you think that your organization will be looking to do as you grow with increasing your staff capacity over the next, say, even 6 months or a year? What does that look like for your organization?
So, and thank you for doing that, because part of what we were talking before is it's hard to retain staff in the nonprofit sector because you have all of these, you're competing with corporate, government, and humongous salaries, right? And sometimes you run with passion in the nonprofit sector. And we're trying to get there in regards to salaries and benefits and the self-care and all of that. But to your point, I have a couple of new colleagues in the organization that had never worked in the nonprofit sector. So that program actually works perfectly for them. So I'm going to connect them to that because they come from the private sector, but they were interested in our mission. So they're helping us with development and with marketing, social media, and they want to know how that looks like for a nonprofit. So this is perfect, right? So I'm going to send them to Good Brothers Foundation. I love it. So a lot of our hiring needs are going to be around development. So I am trying for us to go out there and talk a little bit more about our mission, our new vision of how we see each other in the different counties. We're having conversations in Imperial Valley, as I mentioned. So if we might have a need for a family resource center coordinator, advocate, or associate in Imperial Valley, maybe a couple, to be honest, in Riverside. And right now in Orange County, we have a virtual resource center. I want us to have a person there, somebody that can support families, but sits down with them sometimes 3-4 hours just to understand their needs. So we are going to need a lot of people that are very culturally diverse too, because we provide culturally responsive services. So that means we serve a big Haitian community. So we need Creole speaking advocates. So that's going to be one. Farsi, Filipino, Hispanic, again, more Spanish speakers. But I think having a culturally diverse nonprofit workforce is going to be our main focus, at least at Emilio Nares Foundation, to be able to serve more communities, more diverse communities, but also understand the nuances, right, of how does each community see themselves when they access healthcare, social determinants of health, and all that. So we're expanding all of Southern California, so that's going to be probably our needs.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot. We're moving fast, but we're excited. So I think it's that. But to your point, also bringing in people that might be interested in nonprofit sector, but they have never explored it. So these are perfect programs. Like, hey, this is how we work at the nonprofit sector. Would you be interested in this mission? And you can bring in your for-profit knowledge. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, we've been on this kind of listening tour with all these nonprofits here in San Diego to just really address some of the gaps, and so that's a huge one, obviously, with the talent and building the talent pipeline to get individuals in, but also we're learning just even marketing, and so we're going to have soon kind of a database of all nonprofits that exists in San Diego, which is, I think, going to be a huge resource for us. Wow. And also a calendar of events.
Oh, I think.
Right. For years, I've been doing this work for 25 years. And how often are there events on the same day?
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming up. How do you plan for it? So building an online calendar of events for all nonprofits, and then have even a portal for opportunities for people to volunteer.
Yes.
So they can have a taste of, what different organizations are offering and really find the one that, helps feed their soul in doing this good work. So I'm really excited for us to be able to do that. And what a great opportunity. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't do my own plug for our Good for Others Foundation training program, right? So if there are people listening or excited about it, go to goodforothers.org. See if the training program is a good fit for you, and maybe, change your trajectory and do this good work, because clearly we're going to be hiring lots of people in this sector for the next forever.
Right? This sector, and ideally we wouldn't have to exist as nonprofit sector, but the systems are not built, as you said, to be successful. So we want to make sure that if we are providing the service, is that we have really talented people, that we provide the best benefits, services, but to your point, it's also preparing them to take on these roles and be successful, set them up for success. And I appreciate you breaking down the silos. I think is what you've done in a very phenomenal way in Good for Others Foundation, because having these conversations, but also to your point, calendar of events. I am trying to plan for next year, and I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to compete with 4 other events. And sometimes you do have 3 or 4 events in one night. I'm like, oh, who thought about it? Did you not see the calendar?
Yep. So
I appreciate that.
Slow and steady, we're going to check off the to-do list that I think most CEOs and nonprofits, we've all been struggling with for years and years and years. So we're excited that Good for Others can play that role.
I love it.
So, all right, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
Can we play a little game?
Okay, let's do this. I'm ready.
Okay. So we're going to play a game we call 3 Wishes. So let's imagine a genie is here to wish you or grant you 3 wishes. What would your first wish be?
That's okay. So is it related to my organization?
Whatever
because
you want.
For me, multi-year funding.
I love that. Donors, are you listening?
Donors, are you listening? Multi-year funding, please.
That's a good one. Let's use that.
Let's use that one. Okay, multi-year funding. If you can support us for a couple of years so we can continue our operations and we can focus on expanding, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, and let's pause for a moment. I think that's a really good thing. If there are donors or any philanthropists listening, that is huge. And when you do that and you give a gift that is X amount of dollars, and it's not just a one-time thing, what you're allowing us is breathing room.
Yes.
You give us just an opportunity to know that money is going to be there, whether it's 2 years or 3 or 5. That is it's like a runway for us to really be able to like breathe and understand. And when that happens, it also just lets us be more strategic.
I agree 100%.
So thank you for saying that. What would your second wish
My
be?
second wish? It's interesting because I'm like, am I going to go on the personal side?
Yeah, do a personal one.
I need a couple of weeks vacation.
Yes. See? Unlimited PTO for your
Unlimited
organization.
PTO.
Take some time.
I'm like gonna give myself.
I love it. And what would your third wish be?
My third wish. I feel like it's, you know what? I feel that families and individuals, this is a very personal thing. Like I feel because of my own journey, like feeling alone in a very tough journey is like, I never want anybody to feel like that. So I'm like, that people know not only about Emilio Nares Foundation, Good for Others, but I feel that people don't feel alone when they're going through something, that they have a resource. I don't know if that's a wish. I'm trying to figure it out.
I think it's good. I mean, that belongingness, connectedness, right? When we feel at our lowest or we feel empty, or you feel like you just need someone to just be there.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, for people to know that we're here, regardless of what nonprofit, for-profit, government entity. There's always a resource. There's always somebody that's going to be out there advocating for you. So I don't know if it's a wish, but maybe other than multi-year funding, it's systemic change. No, it's kidding.
All right, before we wrap up, tell everyone exactly what they can do if they're interested in any sort of volunteer opportunities, or hopefully make a donation and support the good work. Tell them how they can connect with you.
So, yes, we have a lot of opportunities at Emilio Nares Foundation from volunteering. As I mentioned, we have toy drives, food drives. We create packages for families when they're in the hospital, snack bags. Truly, there's a lot of opportunities. Even just saying, you got this. Just writing a note of encouragement for the children and families that we serve. We're going to start a mentorship program next year, which I'm very excited about. So the families and the children are not isolated. So there's a lot of volunteer opportunities. If you have from 1 hour to a couple of hours a week, that would be phenomenal. And of course, we're always accepting donations. And part of it is we were trying to expand the work that we're doing and being very thoughtful and going deeper with the families. So if you want to even be part of our board advisory, let us know. We're always looking for people in the community that can advise us of where we should be providing the right services. So if you have any questions, please go to enfhope.org. Emilio Nares Foundation will be more than happy to partner with you. And thank you so much for having us, John. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much, Elsa. Like, I think you were one of the most dynamic, charismatic, and real humans I know. And so I just am super excited that you're in my orbit, and I get to do this good work with you, and it just fills my heart. So thank you for being awesome and amazing.
You too. Thank you for having me and being my partner in good in this space. I truly love our connection. I think from the first day we said we need to work together, and here we are trying to change the world together.
Yeah, one day at a time.
One day.
Well, thank you so much. We're really excited to kick this off, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on this amazing show, the Good for Others Foundation. I'm excited to hear more about nonprofit sector and what's going on, the trends and everything, and hear from our colleagues. So thank you for creating this space.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Elsa. We're really excited that you were able to join us today. For those of you who want to learn more about the Good for Others Foundation, please go to goodforothers.org and learn about our training programs and how you can get a job in the nonprofit sector and help do some of this great transformational work.
Work with us.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you soon.